grade, it's Miss Peacock here. So today we are going to be doing an activity to review all of the text structures that you have been learning about the last few weeks in reading class. So the first thing we're going to do is review those 5 text structures that you've been looking at in nonfiction texts. The 5 text structures that you've learned throughout the last couple of weeks from all of us are cause and effect, which explains why something happens and what happens because of it. You've learned about compare and contrast, where you're looking for similarities and differences between two ideas. You've learned about descriptions and how you use adjectives to describe things. You've learned about sequencing, how you can put stories in order, and that helps the reader to understand the events in the stories. And we've learned about problem and solution, how the author sometimes starts with a problem that's happening, and then the rest of the story are different solutions that they've come up with to solve the problems. So today we are going to review all 5 of those text structures. So what you're going to need to keep in your brain today when we are doing this is those key words that you have learned throughout the last couple weeks that lets you know, hey, the author is using that text structure. So anytime you are doing this assignment, you can always come back up to this slide right here and look for those clue words that will help you to figure out what text structure we are looking at. So what we're going to do today is you guys are going to look at some different task cards that look like this. And you're going to read the task cards and figure out what text structure is the author using on that passage. Once you figure out what text structure it is, you'll put the answer over here where it says your answer. And then you're going to list a couple of clue words that you found in the passage that helped you to figure out what text structure it is. So before I turn you loose, I'm going to do a couple with you just to walk you through and make sure you understand how to do it. So here's our first passage. It says, "The pond was a lovely place to visit. The falling leaves were all different colors, rested on top of the water. At the edge of the pond, small red and yellow wildflowers grew. The golden forest glowed faintly in the distance." So you need to ask yourself, what text structure is the author using in this passage? Are they using cause and effect, compare and contrast, description, problem and solution, or sequencing? Well, if I go back up in the passage and I look, I see some words in here. I see some stuff like right here where it says small red and yellow wildflowers. So they're describing how the flowers look there. They're telling me that they're small and they're red and they're yellow. I also see over here where it says the golden forest glowed. So they're not just saying it's a forest, they're telling us that the forest is glowing and that it's golden. So this author is using the text structure of description. So what I would do is I would come over here and in the box, I'm going to type in my answer. So I'm going to put that this one is C, description. Then once I've told my teacher what my answer is, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look for a couple of those clue words. So we know from Ms. Peden's video on Monday that description uses adjectives, and that's some of those words we just found. So where it says the small red and yellow wildflowers, I can use that as my example to my teacher of how this is a description. I could also use the sentence down here about the golden forest glowed faintly in the distance, because we know that the word golden is describing the forest. So that would be my example to my teacher of how I know that this is description. Okay, let's look at one more together. This one says, "Have you ever made macaroni and cheese?" Fun fact, macaroni and cheese is one of Miss Peacock's favorite things to eat. It's simple. First, boil some water and make some macaroni. Then you make your cheese sauce. After the cheese sauce is ready to mix it with the macaroni. Bake the entire thing in the oven, and finally it's time to eat. So I want you to think for a second. Did you see any clue words in that little passage that lets you know what text structure we're dealing with here? Well, I see the words first, the words after, and the words finally. So that lets me know, hey, they are sequencing. They're telling me the order or the steps that I would have to follow to make macaroni and cheese. So I would come over here and I would type my answer in as E, that this is a sequencing activity. And then I would go back into the story and I would